Vanessa Joy here. Thank you for taking the time, as always, to read my article this month on challenges of a natural light photographer going from natural light to shooting with off-camera light sources. So, as promised, I'm going to take you through just a few of these shots that I have here so that you can learn to dissect and reverse engineer different photos that you like so that you can create them or recreate something similar and use a similar technique yourself on your next shoot utilizing off-camera light. So with this particular shot right here, if I was going to dissect this, first few things that you want to take a look at in general, obviously this is raining, so that is nice big clue as to where one of my lights are. You can also look and see the rim light around the couple, and that's the same light, and you can see it really overexposed back here as far as where the light is because that's closer to where the stand is. So my first light here that you'll notice right off the bat is behind them. It's behind them at the end of the dock, which is probably a good 10 feet behind them. It actually had an umbrella on it so that I could spread the light and spread it a little bit more softly. I am using B1s. These are the ProPhoto B1s here. So that was set back there. And then you can see there is light on their faces. They're not silhouetted here, so there is a secondary light source, which they are both looking towards, which is over off on another dock actually over here. And this light source has a grid on it so that I could, from about, I would say 50 feet away, shoot the light from all the way over here and direct it onto their faces to give them a very concentrated light on their bodies and their faces here rather than spreading on it and letting it spill onto the boardwalk in different areas there. So those are that is how I lit this particular shot. It was originally lit, the exposure figured out by exposing for the background here and then using ETTL on the ProPhoto B1s. Once they gave me the original exposure, I switch over to manual with the ProPhoto lights so that I can keep a consistent exposure just in case, I don't know, it reads all the white and the light colors here on them and decides that it needs to not give off as much light. So I like to do that, and that way I can always tweak and go up or down with my exposure on my lights. All right, moving on here. This is actually the exact same couple. A little bit different of a lighting setup, but not totally crazy. It has the exact same lighting setup here where I have off on a 45-degree-ish angle. I have a light over here, the ProPhoto B1s again. This time though, I don't have a grid on it, so it's much softer. I did have an umbrella on it, I believe, on here, so it's just a softer light. It's also pointing a little bit in front of her, not directly on her, so it just gives a little bit softer of a light here. You can see that there is no rim light around them, so I do not have a light behind them. I only decided to light them because this was in the middle of the day. They had an awesome sky here, and I just wanted to be able to capture that in a way that if I was just shooting natural light, all of this would have gone white. So I love using off-camera light when it comes to reception photos, and that's what this is when it comes to the reception details. I enjoy using it. I just am able to capture the essence of the room in a way that I find much more pleasing than if I was just using a bounce flash. So I have two lights here. I have one off to the right, one off to the left, and they are exactly at a side angle here, so not at a 45 degree, just 90 degrees to me, so they're at 3 and 6 o'clock on here. And again, just using TTL, not having any modifier on them, just pointing right at the top of the light. And you can see this side here, my light is just a little bit closer, which is why you have a little bit brighter here, a little bit darker on this side, and it just gives off a nice dimension to this photograph. One of the things that's nice about the B1s is that I can switch to manual. If I was using speed lights, depending on what trigger system you're using, you do have a harder time switching over to manual. But with this one, you can tell already I've got the light back here. So that's where my one light source is. It's on manual, so I can control that light, make sure it fires to get this little flare look. Some people might say that's incorrect. My clients love it, so that's great. It also backlit the fountain that they're standing behind here so that I could have this nice sort of bokeh effect with that fountain. The second light is off over here at about a 45-degree angle. It's really favoring her and lighting her face. I did have him look over there, so the light would be favorable on his face for one too, but I ended up liking the one where he was looking down at her instead. So 2 light sources there. This is an indoor ceremony, and oh my goodness, the off-camera flash definitely saved me here, and it added dimension again. If I had just bounced the flash or just had a flash on top of my camera, I would not have had this beautiful lighting dimension on both of their faces. I had in the, if you can just picture behind me where I was standing in the end of the at the end of the pews, I had 1 light over to the right and 1 light over to the left, so pointed directly at them with the grids on so that I wasn't flooding the light everywhere, but just pointing it directly where they were, and it worked out pretty well. They do have the guests standing here, so I do see some of the shadows, but hey, I'm pretty happy with how the light fell on their faces for this one. And then finally I have this shot here. Actually, this is the same location as this shot right there. So interesting. This is during the day, stormy day, and this is during sunset at night. This one I only have 1 light, and this one actually I did use speed lights. I didn't have the pro photos for this one when I took this photo, so don't think that you can't use speed lights and, you know, get a beautiful off-camera lighting effect. I only had 1 light source. It was just 1 speed light behind them, probably about 6 feet, I would say, behind them on ETTL. It was bright enough and aimed correctly so that it did light a bit of their faces, and I did bring some of this up in Lightroom as well, but that's just with 1 light. So right behind them and able to capture this beautiful sunset while still getting detail in their faces. So I hope that helped you dissect a little bit off-camera flash, and if you're a natural light photographer, I do encourage you to go ahead and give this a try. You will definitely like what it does for your images once you get the hang of it, and your clients will as well. I will see you next month at Shutter Mag.